Welcome back. Welcome back to ADRAMADA. It's another Thursday night, and you have found ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything. Digital Alchemy. I am the aforementioned Dave Rush, also called, by my own nomenclature, by my own assignment anyways, Commodore ADRAMADA, and your good selves are the ADRAMADA Armada. So, fun show tonight. It happened, right? So we weren't expecting this show to happen. 6 weeks ago, an event came up, and I said, look, I'm not going to make this show. Well, things have turned themselves around a corner, and other things are going on. I just got pictures sent by my missus from the thing I was going to do tonight. I'm leaving my phone on. I'm up to something, so occasionally it's going to honk and wonk, and I apologize for that. So, we're here because we get together every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time to talk about tech. We love all kinds of tech, and we range from everything from electric cars to electric guitars and music and movies. What's in that lemonade? Let's try that again. Energy, booting and computing and Linux and ethics and space. We always talk about space. And cyber and fiber. Okay, I'm not going to read all that list. Today is, as we record this live, August 22nd, and if you're watching this on archive, thank you. Hopefully you can get together with us sometime live and add your input to the chat channel and ask questions and make comments. It's a lot of fun. Let me do a couple things here, and then I'll go see who all's here. Today is in history. Just cannot speak today. I've been on my own for a few days, and I hardly speak to anybody when I do that, so I'm doing more speaking now today than I have in the last 4. I have to remember how to use a tongue. Anyways, today's date is noteworthy because on August 22nd of the year 1864, the first Geneva Convention was adopted, entitled "For the Amelioration of the Condition of the Wounded in Armies in the Field." A dozen nations signed on to that. And this was not in my time feed. There's a couple sites that I go to and get events in history. This is one that I just happened to hear in some station I was listening to or something. And I went and looked it up, and it got even more interesting. In the year 1951, on this date, the trademark for Spam was registered. Spam has existed actually quite some time before that. It was born in Austin, Texas, just down the road from me where my kid lives. And that was in 1937. A cheap source of protein. Hormel says Allied troops consumed it during World War II at the peak rate, 15 million cans per week at its peak. So they were pumping out a lot of pork shoulder and ham, Spam. And then after the war, families ate it as the company touted its versatility. So Spam's been around longer than its trademark. I found some pricing for it. In 1940, a can of Spam cost 25 cents. 15 years later, in 1955, it was 39 cents. And the current retail price on a can of classic Spam, in fact, on all of they got millions of flavors of them now. It's $4.75 these days. So, eep, up, ork, let's see who you are and what you're doing here. What are you doing here? I want my NTP. Ever since I saw that on there, I've been humming it in my head all day. I always thought that was kind of like back in the day, when I listened to that song, I thought, okay, Sting did the opening, and then the rest of it was Mark Knopfler. No, it's a duet through and through. Shy Moonstone is amongst us. Has your avatar always just been an S in a circle, or I was thinking there was something more there. Maybe I'm just always so enamored by the waving pink hands, which are just too cool. So good afternoon, Will Shaw, Amongst the Living. Welcome back. Boy, you guys are in the news almost every day. So sorry about that, but hey, I'm glad you're doing fine. And congrats on a great year so far of burning down the clock. Keep that up, man. You'll be done by mid-November. I always used to kill myself to do that. I would fly like crazy. There's a maximum number of hours that you can fly as an airline pilot per month, per day, per month, and per year. And I would just try and front load the snot out of the year so that I hit my annual maximum no later, if I can help it, than the beginning of December. And the way our contract worked is, they got to pay you, but they can't fly you, so you go home for a month and enjoy. I just went sailing by here. Yes, he is a fellow nerd. I cut that short from Jobs. It was foreshortened because of the space limitations on here, but basically there was one sentence before that said, I got here, my favorite things in life don't cost any money. And then the quote continues with what I posted. It's really clear that the most precious resource we all have is time. Yeah. Certainly high on the list. And of course, we're talking about time today. We are live. Jason Helms is here. Been posting some interesting stuff on the Discord server, which I will post in just a second so I get through helloing everybody. Heard about the Windows fiasco and the secure boot update, and and then of course, while I belittle and begrudge people for using dual boot, immediately Patricia Grace pops in. She has company tonight at work, where she's at a work event with her boss or something on those lines. Anyways, Patricia Grace, of course, dual boots. Okay, you never said it here. I'm talking. Okay. Spam is an important part of the Hawaiian culture. Absolutely, the Hawaiian culinary culture. And as I was looking up some spam stuff today, I think I saw among the 30, 40 flavors or variants that they have, that there was a pineapple version of it. And I know that regular, good old classic spam is just a staple there. I haven't had spam in ages. I've had it once in the past year, just because I wind up talking about it regularly, and then once about 3 years ago. And before that, the last time I had it, I was probably 12. In 1937. Reading here. Spam there is like bacon here. Oh my, I'm not going to hit my yearly max. Oh no, not hustling that much. A lot of pay hours, but lower block hours. Okay. Credit deadheads. Oh man, give me a deadhead. My favorite thing in the world was to be on call, and then you have to go and recover a ship someplace. Dispatch would call you up and say, okay, here, go jump on this plane and it'll take you wherever, and find this plane and bring it home, or take it to wherever. No passengers, no nothing. We call it a Part 91 flight. And my first question they always got to know before I even asked it is, street clothes? Which was always fine, because the answer was usually yes, but TSA and pre-TSA back in those days, you can't come in here. You're not a pilot. You don't have a uniform ID, but you're not wearing a uniform. Bite me. And that's why I shot so many of them. Kidding. Might do spam, eggs, and cheese. Done deal. All right, what's cooking up? What did I just do? Okay, something bad, but it's recovered. So what do we got going on here? Oh, we got this stuff. So ADRAMADA's got a Discord server. And if everybody here is on it, guys, gals, you need to start participating live on the show, not live on Discord. Something major is about to happen. Like, it's going to happen. I got a contact the other day from somebody that says, would your people like this thing? I said, well, yeah, sure they would. We would like to give it to them. And this thing is so thing So they've got a shindig this week that they've got to go to. And then next week we start talking. And this is something that, if we sit down over a beer, we can have all hashed out in an hour. My guess is it's going to drag out a couple of weeks because I've got some things that are going to drag me away. But the more you participate, the more you're here, the happy you're going to be about this. So hang here and go join the Discord server. No, I'm effectively non-disclosed on it. You can contact me there if you so choose, or if you'd rather send me an email. Here's a couple of email addresses in the chat. And if you want to follow me or communicate with me on X, then you can do the same thing with me on Mastodon. All right, there's too many ways to contact me. So last week, our show, kind of last minute put together, but it was a cool one, was some Linux commands. And look, you can open up your favorite search engine and say, most interesting Linux commands, most important Linux commands, whatever. And you'll find 40,000 lists of them. So what I did is I found commands that, first of all, I use all the time, almost daily, some of them. And then some other ones that I seldom use, but I love them. They are just too cool. And here's a few of them that we talked about. Daily commands, df-h, to find out free disk space, du, to find out how much space is being taken up in a particular directory or under. The 3 W's that I didn't realize when I picked those commands that it was www, but the W command, the who command, tell us who's logged into our server and give us some interesting information about them. The watch command, that's one of my favorite commands now that I know about it. It's fairly new for me. It runs a command over and over and over. By default, every 2 seconds you can change that interval. And you watch the results change, or you watch the results not change. So maybe you're monitoring a directory that's used as a remote scratch directory. People add to it all the time, just junk files. They get rid of them. It's just no security to it. It's a big shared space. That's what we used to call a scratch directory or a scratch folder. And so you can just run an ls command on that thing with the watch command and watch things get added and subtracted all the time. It's really kind of cool. This week, we are going to talk about the network time protocol. This is going to be a two-parter. Today is all presentation and slides. And then the next show on the topic, we're going to set one up. So we're going to get into an overview, use cases, what it is, how it works, what's its hierarchy, what's its infrastructure, things like that. All right. Activities of the week. Sunday, coming back from a thing, car fired up 4 annunciator lights. 3 of them simultaneously, and then 1 of them after I shut it off and turned it back on. And so it drove fine, just annunciator lights. The one of them was red. That's a bad sign. So I came home and I did some research on it, and the one individual one says it's electrical. It's power steering, and this car doesn't have hydraulic steering. There's no hydraulic fluid to add to it. That would have been good to know before I went into the store and bought a bottle of power steering fluid, huh? And so the problems are either internal electromechanical, or they say the most common problem is electrical. Not enough power coming from the alternator, bad cables coming from the battery, bad battery itself. But I'm much more worried about the ones that are all oriented with brakes and traction and ABS. And for that, my theory is one of 2 things. The common internet discussion threads say the wheel speed sensors are not booted. They're not encased. And so road dirt and schmutz flies up in them, particularly like little rust chunks off the road, and it begins to impact its ability to detect the magnet in the rotating hub, and so it can't figure out what the wheel speeds and any differentials and things like that are. So it turns off all of those functions. The other one is because of all the flat tire adventures the week before, I had a shop have wheels off and wheels back on, and my big hope is that they loosened an ABS sensor connector, and I have to take this one to a dealer because this car has never been to a dealer. I bought it used, and I want to look over at least one time before I hand it off to my regular shade tree mechanic guy. So I dropped it off yesterday. I haven't heard from them all day yesterday, all day today, with not even a diagnosis. Oh yeah, the shirt, right? There's a fold in there. You can't see there. Ultraman came out in 1966, one season as a show called Ultraman Q. And then the next couple seasons there was Ultraman. And this I hadn't realized, every couple of years, sometimes year after year, they'll do 1 or 2 seasons of a new Ultraman. This is Ultraman Taiga, Ultraman Alpha. There's zillions of them. So I'm not a big Ultraman fan. I don't know all this stuff, but I'm going with nostalgia. Okay, that was an after-school show for me. So. All right, we'll pass all that junk. I need to know more about Apple products. My side hustle has been morphing. I'm working with a gent as a subcontractor, primarily to provide IT and AV services to pharmaceutical companies who are doing presentations and pitches to docs. They go in, they run a restaurant, feed everybody, and they talk about their big product of the day. And I like the job. It's not real hard. I bring in equipment, I set it up, and the equipment varies. Sometimes it's a cable. Sometimes it's a hotspot. Sometimes it's everything. Computers and screens and PA systems and wireless mics and laser printers and advanced. It's all over the place. But always fun. It's all stuff I have. So I had one 2 days ago where I went in and of necessity, I arrived late. I got the information that I needed too late. So what I did was really cool. I took everything that I've ever used on any of these gigs and stuffed it in the Jeep. And so when this work order comes in, while I'm driving down, I'll at least be a little closer on time, and I'll have everything that I've ever used in the car, so it'll be cool. And I wound up about 15 minutes late, and that gave me about 45 minutes to set up. And the setup was really simple. It was just a powered speaker and a wireless mic, and help out where I can. An HDMI cable that's supposed to go from a laptop to the TV in the facility. And I got in, and one of the people there in charge said, the laptop is dead, but I've got the show on my iPad. Well, I don't have an HDMI cable that hooks into an iPad. And so I started thinking, and I came up with all kinds of solutions, but the fastest solution is the facility had the right cable without having to go through all kinds of adapters and whatnot. Okay, we'll use their cable, plug it in. But then I had to get PowerPoint to work on here. Couldn't make the Wi-Fi clicker work on there because it doesn't have a USB port, and my Wi-Fi clicker mandates USB, and. So I've got to learn a lot more about Apple and Mac products so I can keep stuff in inventory when they throw me a surprise like that. I had my computer in the car. I would have been happy to pull it out. And we've used it a bazillion times in these. It's got everything it needs, but they wanted to do that thing, so fine. What have we got here? This is... These things are really cool. I got to hang around for these shows as tech support if anything goes wrong. Nothing ever has yet, but and it's always some drug presentation. Sometimes it's the drugs you see on TV, like Tremfya, I think that's a TV drug. And it's terrible because almost all of these, I sit through their hour presentation and I leave thinking, man, I really ought to get evaluated for whatever disease these things are treatments for. Very happy that the one 2 days ago or yesterday, whenever it was a drug for treating schizophrenia. And while I've certainly been accused of being schizophrenic and psychotic at times, it's not something anybody's ever proven clinically, so I'm good. All right, enough of that nonsense. Some of you informed me of something that I had recently learned. The launch date for Hot Cars and Hot Phone and hands-on training is necessarily pushed back 2 months because a Texas judge put a stay on the ruling from the FTC about banning non-compete agreements. It was going to happen at the end of this month. I was ready to go September 1. But now I've got to wait until November 1 when the natural expiration of that non-compete clause that I had to sign goes away. So we're back in a holding pattern for a couple of months. Hey, Patricia Grace is here. Upcoming shows, practical. Well, we got the second part of today's show. We're going to do NTP hands-on the project. We're going to set up an NTP service. And then we're going to do a two-part series on practical electronics. Been thinking about how to do this. One of them is electronics for people who work with PCs. So we're going to talk about power supplies and rails and what comes out of them, and some real basic electronics rules that go with that. And then I'm going to do another show on electronics for hobbyists, introductory electronics for hobbyists. It's going to be a quick show, and we'll see what happens in the future if we need to extend on that. It should be pretty fun. Talked about that. I got a notice from a manufacturer today asking me to send them my show stats. They would like us to, they want us in consideration to introduce one of their new and upcoming products. And I'll tell you what that is. It's no, the company is, I've never known how to pronounce this. I pronounce it Sipeed, S-I-P-E-E-D. Chinese company. They make a lot of really cool electronic stuff. And the product that we are in contention for, along with other shows like mine, is it's not the MaxiCam Go. It's the MAIX-Cam Go. 2 words. So we may be one of the introducers of that. Tech news of the week, then I'm going to check the feed, and then we're going to start on real news. I'm just going to do 2 quickie news stories here. No slides on these 2. No update yet on Starliner crew. However, I just got an announcement from NASA a couple hours ago that they're going to hold a briefing this Saturday on the Starliner crew topic. They didn't give any hints. There is a Dragon capsule scheduled to launch on the 28th of this month with a crew of 4 SpaceX, not NASA, SpaceX astronauts. And those folks are scheduled to conduct the first commercial crew spacewalk. There was news today about why didn't we just, 4 people, the Dragon holds 6, so why not just send the 2 home when that goes home? Well, it turns out that the fittings on the spacesuit used in the Starliner don't work, the electrical and the air and the whole ball of wax, with the connections in Dragon. So they could put them in a suit, but they wouldn't get air from the system or anything like that. Wouldn't fit. They could send them down suitless, but it gets very hot in there, hot enough to do damage to humans. So basically nothing there. Maybe they, who knows, maybe when they send a rescue up at February, they'll send a couple extra Dragon suits up. All right, see what you guys got going on. Then we'll do news, and then we'll do NTP. Jason, any idea when you'll be able to let the cat out of the bag? So, yeah, again, the hot stuff pushed back now until November 1. It can't get pushed any farther than that. I'm out of any potential legal limbo. I don't think that my products are competitive, but they've got a junkyard dog lawyer who has a reputation, I don't know if this is true, of pursuing litigants, even if they're in a losing position, to cause financial hardship to adversaries. So I'm not running the risk. I'm not that kind of money. Wilshaw, sudo dd through interface dev 0. SABS seems to use this. Okay, you use this one too much. Yeah, so that's a block copy command from. Okay, out of the 0 to the SATA device. Block size 1 meg. Okay. Made it. Emailed me a link to the web assets I was speaking about in the cave. Okay. Yeah, and I've gotten that also from everybody who's aware of my circumstances. So thank you. We're checking in with each other. No, not like a sponsorship. This is something for the ADRAMADA family. I think we may have been selected because of our audience size. Our live audience size is not too big that they have to give away a lot of product, but it's not too small that it becomes invisible. And and if we get bigger, they're fine with that. So if you want to start inviting friends, start turning up here for the next 3 to 6 weeks. I don't think it's going to take nearly that long. Again, the greater your presence, the greater your ability to take advantage of it. Way off topic, says Jason. Talking about space travel, I saw the Alien Romulus. You saw it, huh? I haven't seen it yet, and the missus out of town. She wants to see it. I've been waiting for it to turn up on my freebie feed, but it hasn't yet. Okay, I know the timeline. I've seen them all many, many times, so I'm looking forward to that one. Lemonade, that pure, refreshing drink. All right, back to news and slideshow. All right. Let's call this unsettled science. Turns out everything we know about Alzheimer's is wrong. With Alzheimer's, they have always detected, people who have Alzheimer's, they've always detected these clumps of proteins called beta amyloids. And so the path has always led down to the fact that this clumping of beta amyloid proteins is the cause of Alzheimer's. And so the pursuit of treatment has always been find a source, or better yet, just destroy the beta amyloids. Well, this week's Health Science says, we believe that the beta amyloids are not the cause. They are a side effect of the brain's immune system trying to fight off whatever the actual cause of Alzheimer's is. So that got published about a week ago, and about 4,000 other papers that are so far beyond my ability to read and understand. But unsettled science. Turns out everything we know is wrong. Starting late August and going through October. I'm thinking about everybody that I know on here and know something about. Most of you are not in my neck of the woods or California. We have a tremendous tarantula population that runs from Texas through Northern California and all the states in between. Well, they're quiet. They're shy. We seldom see them. I saw a couple crossing the road about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but otherwise very, very seldom. However, starting in late August, mating season is out, and they are out in force. So, and you know where they had the most of them? This kind of surprised me. I always thought they were a much hotter climate thing. Colorado. Colorado is just huge with tarantulas. The mama gives birth to, it's either 5,000 or 50,000. I guess I didn't make good notes on that. Eggs. And they grow for about 6 weeks before they hatch. The males are interesting. They live for 10 years, and the females can live 20 to 30. So the guys are out there living it up for 10 years. Fedora 41, nicknamed Rawhide, is due out at the end of October. Now, Fedora has a release schedule of 3 per year. And whenever Fedora comes out, it's an enterprise distribution, effectively the same thing with some minor differences as Red Hat and Alma and Rocky and Oracle Linux, their enterprise. Fedora is an upstream. A lot of the development that they do, Red Hat looks at and says, yeah, we're going to include that, or no, we're not going to include that. So they're kind of the developmental branch. Anyways, when a Fedora release comes out, it always comes out with the latest stable version of Kubernetes, if you prefer. This can be a problem because if you are running a containerized system that's managed by Kubernetes and you update your enterprise Linux and it comes with a new version of Kubernetes, it may break the old version. Then you got heavy magic that start getting through. This has been a problem for a lot of distros that include with it the most current release of Kubernetes. So they've announced that with the end of October release of Rawhide, they're going to provide 3 simultaneous multiple packages of Kubernetes, the most current and the 2 previous ones, and they can all run simultaneously. So you can upgrade your Fedora, and the right version of Kubernetes is going to be there. So we got 1.29, 1.30, and 1.31. And these are coming in as packages. Because that's the other problem. If you have the old, say you've got 1.29, and you upgrade your Rawhide, your Fedora, some of the dependencies that 1.29 needed aren't included in the newest version of Fedora. So by creating these as packages, RPMs, instead of apt packages or deb packages, all of the dependencies are in the package. So it makes it possible to run all 3 generations, or however far back it goes until they get one that becomes obsolete, and they won't include that one anymore when support dies. So it's cool stuff. Here's one that most of us in the environment who watch ADRAMADA won't care about, but it's kind of an interesting thing as far as news goes. There is a SQL database product out there called CockroachDB, and it's a distributed SQL database designed for cloud scalability and resilience. Well, they've always had 2 versions, a free version and a paid version, and they've decided to kill the free version. They're going to merge the 2 together into a pay one. There's going to be a low feature free one under the new license, but basically there were so many organizations who got everything that they needed from the free version that Cockroach Labs said, we ain't making no money off this stuff. We either got to recode the systems really heavily, or now let's just redo the license. So it's a cool database since it scales across cloud environments. the Postgres attack, or Postgre attack. So this has been a big hacker news kind of thing. For Postgre SQL servers, Postgre in and of itself is not a SQL server, it's a non-SQL. PostgreSQL database is a SQL server. And a new attack for it has been unearthed recently. And let me just do a little bit of the text that I wrote here. Poorly protected PostgreSQL databases running on Linux machines, that's first of all one of the weak points, are being compromised by cryptojacking attackers. And the short version is they attack these servers and they put a crypto miner in there and it uses that server to mine for them and then send the results of the mining to the bad guys. I'm not going to read this whole attack thing. What do I care? There are two little factoids out of this thing. Shodan. We did a show on Shodan one time, or at least featured it as part of a show. It's a search engine that seeks out search engines, servers running all kinds of different services, and they document them. Anyway, Shodan says there are 830,000, give or take, Postgres server that are accessible on the net. So theoretically, they are all at risk. To secure them, there's two things you can do. First of all, the most common sense, easy stuff. Implement strong network security with firewalls, VPNs, SSH tunnels, restricted access. Make sure all users have strong passwords. Use and review audit logs, intrusion detection systems, secure backups. These are all common sense things that we should be doing for everything all the time. Disable any unnecessary features in the server and in the SQL database server and the Postgre server. That protects against SQL injection servers and applications. And then you can also look up Postgre hardening best practices for some specific steps that you can take on the Postgres server. Staying in the Linux world, Linux desktop growth hit 4.45% in July. Is that a big number? Of course not. If you look at the chart I have up on the screen, the blue top one is Windows, and then OS X, which is Mac OS basically. And you get down to that fourth one, the red one, that's Linux. But what's really interesting about that is if I could overlay this with the previous year's growth, in August of 2023, Linux desktop market share was 3.18. So it's almost up 1.33% in a year. That's humongous. The analysts anticipating an easy reach to 5% within the next year. Why? Growing sentiment that Microsoft, with its Windows operating system, is faltering. Instances like Microsoft urging users to train their AI for free have left users feeling disgruntled and seeking alternative solutions like Linux, adding fuel to the fire and pending end of life for Windows 10. Just over a year from now, Windows 10 support disappears October 2025. So switch to Win 11 or maybe start looking at Linux. I'm conflicted about this. Go Linux, says the Linux tech weenie in me. But then when it happens and it becomes every day and it becomes a commodity that's at much greater risk now, like Windows is, that's scary. That's disappointing. Significant factors, I don't care. I'm going to read all that junk. All right, that's all the news that's fit to print. Yeah, we could do that. And then that, and that, and that. Hey, we're ready for the next piece. Okay. Let's see what you guys are talking about when I was doing all that. Did I make or miss an Eddie Murphy reference? Let's do that. Okay, reading messages. Anonymous. Eddie Murphy reference. Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. That was from Eddie Murphy Raw, I think. Eddie Murphy doing Elvis, singing about lemonade. Nice catch. Nice catch. Can deal with regular spiders. Probably freak out if I actually saw a tarantula in the wild. They're scary. And I can't say that I've ever been bitten one, but I've seen people getting bitten by them. I've known plenty. So they'll rear up with their front legs like this, and they have scary ass looking fangs. But they don't dig deep into human flesh, and it's like a wasp nest for most people, unless you're particularly allergic or something sensitive to it. I watched about half of Earth versus the Spider the other day, giant tarantulas with pools of liquefied white tarantula venom. Some of my favorite scenes in bad B horror movies. If I see a spider that big anywhere, I'm grabbing a flamethrower. Don't mess around with a hammer. The Boring Company. You can't get those anymore. Couldn't find a better name. I love those YouTube vids where they have bar graphs sped up to show years of info and popularity of different products. Me too. All right. Well, where are we at on time? We've only got 20 minutes left. That's okay. This is kind of a broad overview. It's got slides, and there's only like a half a dozen slides. So let's talk about NTP, the Network Time Protocol. It is the current time synchronization protocol. The whole point of NTP is to get time from some authoritative source and provide it to other computers on a network, maybe on the network, the internet. The next goal is to create a situation so that time provided to this computer, when I look at the time on that computer, is the same time as on this computer. And maybe these computers are in the same building, maybe on the same local network, maybe they're on another network, maybe they're in another time zone, maybe they're in another continent, maybe they're in another hemisphere, and maybe there are tens of thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them. So we want their clocks to be synchronized. Why? Well, we'll talk about that. Here's the challenge. Let's say we've got a time source right here, and it's connected to some different servers all over the world. Well, the connection from here to here might have 3 router hops in it. And the connection here might have 17. And this connection might have 2, but this one's really slow. And so somehow, by the time these guys get their time, they got to know what time it is accurately so that it matches all of these ones. That is the magic of NTP. Under the current configuration of NTP, we can pull that off to within milliseconds. And the next step, PTP, Precision Time Protocol, is good for nanoseconds. It's going to cost a little bit of money. Excuse me. Click that, click that. All right, so it is a network protocol that requires it can require some specialized equipment if you want really, really, really accurate time. Uses UDP port 123, can use TCP port 123, but that introduces additional delay, so UDP is the answer. It's the current time sync protocol. It came from the first generation of time synchronization protocol, which is called TP, time protocol. Then came NTP version 1, 2, 3, and we're presently running on NTP version 4. It has to accommodate router hop times and other things that introduce latency so that when we go through potentially multiple layers of time servers that, again, when it gets down to this machine has exactly or within milliseconds the same time as this machine. And that's really, really impressive technology to pull that off. NTP achieves synchronization across networks on the order of milliseconds. I said that. BTP gives you higher precision time. Okay. Now, how do we do this? We do this by creating a hierarchical system of time servers. And each hierarchy is called a stratum. Up at stratum 0, we have a computer that says, I am the keeper of time. I am the sole provider of time. And there are publicly accessible stratum 0 servers out there. I'm going to give you a link here in a couple moments where you have 2 different links that have lists of very, very popular public stratum 0 servers. Now, stratum 0 server is magic because in order to be an arbitrator of time, it has to have accurate time. So accurate, in fact, that it cannot get time across a network connection. It's got to be directly connected to a feed from an accurate time source, primarily an atomic clock. And there are government-operated atomic clocks, there are private atomic clocks, and so they need a direct connection from them. They can also use the clocks on a GPS. Those are usually backups. And they can also use a private, dedicated box that's got accurate time in it as a time reference. The job of a stratum 0 time server is to get time from one of those basically 3 authoritative services and provide them to the next tier of stratum servers, namely stratum 1 servers. So stratum 1 server's job is to get time from a stratum 0 server, and it can provide it to any client, or it can provide it to the next layer of stratum servers. And you won't be surprised to discover that that would be, did I do, let me set up on this next slide here. Yeah. So stratum 1 servers give time to stratum 2 servers. Stratum 2 servers get time from stratum 1 and provide it to stratum 3 servers. They function the same, but there is an important difference. A stratum 1 server has to have a very stable clock. So when it gets time from a stratum 0 server, he says, okay, my clock is synced to that right now, and I have an internal clock or clocks or devices that will maintain stable time for a long time without me having to refer back to the stratum 0 server. A stratum 2 server is exactly like a stratum 1, except it's allowed to have a little sloppier internal clock mechanism. And guess what? A stratum 3 is just like a stratum 2, but a sloppier internal clock leakage kind of thing. Stratum 1 servers usually come with a backup clock that's external, or it could be plugged into an expansion port, and it's called a reference oscillator, an OCXO. You'll see it if you look that up online. OCXO. That's, maybe that could be a 0CXO too. Hyperlink. Okay. But those are, yeah, okay, we don't need to get into much detail here. Stratum 1 servers can also have GPS connection services, things like that. So we tend to put these Stratum 1 servers as kind of an edge server in remote facilities, particularly large ones. And why do we do this? Why do we care about all this synchronization? Well, it's all about use cases. And I slid past most of my use cases up here. I got them redocumented. Come up. So take it on faith that it's really important for a lot of different computers to have very, very tightly synchronized times. Again, down to that millisecond value. and sometimes even much tighter than that. So Stratum 1s tend to be kind of edge time servers at remote locations, and if it's a large locations, they will feed one or more Stratum 2 servers, and the bigger the installation is, maybe we get Stratum 3 servers before we start providing time to all of the hosts and other equipment, maybe manufacturing machines. They got to have time sinks. Communications tools, they need good time synchronization. And you can see in this graphic that I have up that from the atomic clock, there's kind of a one-way communication to Stratum 1 servers. They can communicate with each other. They can communicate down to Stratum 2. Stratum 2s can communicate with each other as necessary, and down to Stratum 3s. And Stratum 3s can even communicate with each other, compare notes, updates, things like that. The job here, as I mentioned, is management of latency. Because these Stratum 1 servers may be different amounts of hop time away from their Stratum 0 servers, there's got to be a way to say, okay, I can compensate. I won't be 1 second away from my Stratum 0 server, while this guy might be 2/3 of a second away. Those are long times. It wouldn't be that far, but you get the idea. And so what they do is when they initiate communication with one another, they do a round-trip communication and do timing on that. And that's redone periodically because paths change over time in the internet. And so once they know how long it takes to get from here to here, they can use compensating algorithms to deal with that. And then when they do provide accurate time or actual time to a lower layer device, a client, or a lower stratum device, the time is included in the packet header. And that's going to be the primary difference between how communication of NTP works and how communication of PTP works. There are more bits available in a PTP packet to provide more accurate information about time. Timestamps, they call that. So yeah, there's heavy math involved in this. Obviously, we're not going to go into that. In fact, here is the heavy math. Computing relative offsets and delays is a formula called Christian's time sync algorithm. What's really cool about this is this algorithm is built into all of the time server software and the time client software. So for our purposes, we install this software and it happens in a black box in a back room that we don't know about, and everything comes up pretty darn cool. The final piece, this is it. Like I said, this is a real broad overview. Don't panic. What I mostly want you to walk away from is the hierarchy. And if you're studying for Network Plus, that hierarchy and the term latency and the stratum labels, the fact that stratum 1 or 0 communicates only with strat 1 and 2 and 3, that's everything you need to know for time services if you're preparing for a Network Plus exam. So the client, Windows has a client, and it has an interesting option. It's window-based, and it's hard-coded into the kernel. You can't change anything in it, except there is a short list of Stratum 3 or Stratum 2 servers that you can pick from to be the provider of time for your local machine. Mac, similarly, has a built-in one. In Linux, there are zillions, not zillions, but dozens of NTP client software. I want to talk for a moment about PTP. And you see there's kind of a similar structure here. Names change, equipment changes. We have a grand master clock up on top, and it feeds subsequent providers of time, which in turn feeds subsequent providers of time. And the grandmaster has to get accurate time from somehow, somewhere, same way that we've talked about, or like this. You can get a master clock source that gets accurate time from a GPS or from an atomic clock, and it provides it to the Grandmaster clock. And I've seen these things cheap, if you buy them on the used market, and they're still fine, for like $300. You can see this one's new at $1,600. And the last thing I want to talk about is use cases. You can probably think of some use cases yourself where having time synchronized between two computers is practical, useful, maybe even important. What time is it? Yeah, according to this thing, it's 7:55 local. If I look at this on my computer, it's 7:55, just went to 7:56, and so did this. So they're at least within 1 second of each other. I guarantee that they are using different Stratum Zero servers, but those Stratum Zero servers are probably getting the same time from U.S. Naval Lab. That's not the official name of it. It'll come to me. Anyway, so, okay, knowing what time it is accurately, that's kind of cool, but it's much more important when we think about the fact that computers and computerized manufacturing machinery have to do things in sequence. And you've seen some of these machines working at insanely high speeds. They just installed 4,000 chips on a printed circuit board, getting ready to go down and get soldered. You got to do that in order. You got to do that on time. You got to locate the PCB in the right place. You got to get the right components being fed from all the little shotguns that feed them and place them. P&P, pick and place. So that's really critical. How about file synchronization? Many people are saving files to same locations, and oftentimes the only outward difference is the fact that they are written a couple milliseconds apart. Log entries. Okay, so if you got a log entry coming from disparate systems all over the world, they got to have correct timestamps so that we can go back and trace what happened in order. And for that reason, I posted a little note about this on the Discord server. A best practice, if you ever have to deal with any two computers, a server and a workstation, servers and servers, whatever, that are in different time zones, sync them to UTC, not to their local time zone, and that's going to solve a lot of problems for you down the road and prevent a lot of problems. We use accurate time synchronization for security, right? Sometimes certificates are issued and they're only good for a very short window of time. The two computers involved with certificate exchange have to have their clocks at least that much in sync and be able to complete the security negotiation. Your Kerberos servers, things like that. If you've got an RSA token, those need accurate time to the second. Some of the Cisco switches and routers, they have NTP and PTP configurations in them because they are working with time-sensitive information, and some of their quality of service issues involve time windows that have to be accurate. So let me give you a list of public time servers. This is an interesting list. So if you want to set up a Stratum 1, you can have it get time from one of these Stratum Zeros. Some of these are Stratum 1s, but they're identified in there, in that list. And here's a list of the NIST public time servers. So that the NIST gets its time from U.S. Naval Labs. Are there any problems with NTP? Yes, there is. It is not secure. It is an unsecured, unencrypted UDP connection. Is that a problem? We don't know. It's never been a problem in the past, but probably that's because nobody's come up with a reason to use it as, an attack vector. So next generation will include encryption security on that. Timestamping client synchronization, blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, so one of the other pieces of that is it's necessary to open up port 123 on your firewalls for any kind of time server or client. What happens if a time server gets disconnected? I'm only going to run over about 2-3 minutes. Bear with me. Nothing. Mostly nothing. You're going to lose accuracy. So let's say my Stratum 3 server has lost contact with its Stratum 2 server. It's okay. It's still got a clock in it. It's still going to provide time until that connection is reestablished. And if it doesn't get reestablished for a long time, then, at least you got something to work with. And the same goes for Stratum 2 servers and Stratum 1s. And if Stratum 0 loses contact with its time source, that's okay. He's still got a reliable clock inside himself. You can't use these. Stratum 1 servers don't use the same CMOS RTC clocks you're going to find in day-to-day computers. They have internalized boxes like that one I just showed you on eBay and more rubidium time things. Look up NTP Stratum on eBay, and you'll find a lot of interesting things. All right, that's the presentation. See what you guys are talking about, and then we will. Oh, I didn't hit the enter key on that. Oh, okay, there's the other list. So what you guys talked about, and we will close things down for the day because I am qualified to do just such a thing. Love those YouTube vids. That's what I picked off. Such as TLS certifications. Exactly right. Banking and medical uses. We could go on forever. Time synchronization is so important. All right, guys. It's been fun. Next week's show and possibly the week after that are up in the air. And those are paid gigs that I can't get out of. I've said yes to them. So time management, taking the show on the road with me to do them, those are all possibilities. But again, the next show that I want to do is going to be setting up a time service on some servers that I have to take quite the collection of equipment, and it's all going to depend on the flexibility of the gigs. So I'll keep you apprised on the on Discord, and I'll post notices here. There's something new that YouTube channel has that allows me to make posts. I've never tried that, but that may be useful. All right, how do we get out of this thing? You click on that. I don't know what's going on there. Oh, okay, there it is. The world changed there for a moment. Hey, thanks for sticking around with me just a little bit long. Hopefully it wasn't too painful. I wish you all a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy, and if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And of course, never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, I bid you good evening. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next time I see you. I'll keep you informed. And on the other platforms I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eat, hop, ork, ah, ah.